Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, your cosmic GPS for life, love, and everything written in the stars. We're Tali and Ophira Edut, the AstroTwins, here to decode the astrology of the moment and help you navigate your destiny like a pro.
What is up, everybody? Welcome. It is the week of August 18th to 24th. The very end of Leo season, the last week of Mercury's retro shade, the post-retrograde slingshot. I am going to miss Leo season, even though this one had its fair share of drama. I don't know. It's just peak summer. It makes me so sad. I don't want it to end, but onward we go this week into Virgo land, starting August 22nd, this Friday. Truthfully, I feel this way every summer, but I also love Virgo season.
We get so much done.
Yeah.
Our Capricorn risings love Virgo season. Our Sag suns are all about Leo season. You know, despite the worldly insanity, we did manage to have some summer moments this Leo season, and I feel very grateful for that.
A lot of people I know have been using a coping strategy of really just watching the news, keeping up on it, protesting as needed, but then also taking their attention and pouring it into something that brings them happiness or something to learn, whether it's a course or just anything, just to keep their nervous systems regulated. And Virgo is associated with that. It's associated with the mind. It's ruled by Mercury. And, you know, we are going to want to take good care of our mental health and our stress levels always, but during Virgo season especially.
Absolutely. I mean, this last countdown of Leo season, and actually last week too, there's some major things happening in the skies, 2 kite formations and a magic rectangle that are also kind of filtering out. I did an Instagram about them, but let's talk about them a little bit because, and there were some key formations that were happening during the Lion's Gate, but now we have a second kite. So what a kite is, it's made up of planets forming a grand trine. That's like an equilateral triangle that looks like a even pyramid. And then one side of them is also popped out to a small pyramid. So it is shaped like a kite. And these are made up of trines and sextiles. Those are what we call the soft angles, the easy aspects in astrology, because it means that the planets involved are really sharing their energy without much resistance, friction, sometimes without an off switch. And so that can be good for sure. It can keep things exciting and flowing and manifesting.
Or it can be too much of a good thing, or things moving too quickly, like, whoa, we haven't processed this. And every kite also has an opposition in it. So there are 2 opposite points. In the case of the one that was around the Lion's Gate, it was Mars opposite Saturn and Neptune. So Mars is war and conflict. Saturn is leadership. Mars is kind of the gas, just like Jupiter. Saturn is the brake. And then Neptune is like confusing.
Delulu,
putting some fog over everything. So,
I mean, it's just you might as well just say the Trump, Putin, Alaska debacle right there, because it was just like, you know, the grand trine was an air sign. So it was Mars in Libra, like you said, which is already confusing.
Yeah, Mars in Libra which is happening from August 6th to September 22nd. So we are in a challenging Mars cycle because Mars is the planet of war and conflict, and Libra is a sign of peace and harmony. So it's a mismatch.
Yeah, and that's in a grand trine with Uranus, the planet of technology, in Gemini. So also last week, GPT-5 was rolled out during Mercury retrograde. What were they thinking? Why do they always do this? And it got kind of slammed, and people wanted GPT-4 back because I guess it sounded more like their bestie, and 5 is a little more uptight, like, I don't know, like a robocaller. So
Wow.
Mars,
It's like
Uranus.
it's like all the people that were using ChatGPT as therapists and surrogate partners and besties. No judgment.
Because
I've asked a few
humans are
therapeutic
failing
questions
to
here
step up
on
to the
there,
plate now. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
insurance companies aren't covering those services or
Yeah.
that kind of
Right.
thing. But
Yeah. So
apparently,
that,
a lot of that data is apparently also public and owned by Open AI.
which is
So
another problem there, because here we go. So the trine also includes Pluto, the furtive planet of manipulation and shadowy dealings in Aquarius, the sign of technology. So everything that has to do with like negotiations, technology, like data, information is like swirling super fast. That could also have a lot to do with like, I mean, on a more personal level, who's allying with who's friends with who, people gathering around social justice, social causes, new leadership emerging. That pop out point of the kite is Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And as Ophi said, they're opposing, so Saturn and Neptune together, it's like blurring boundaries, enforcing boundaries, blurring. So those two are one of the main reasons that everything feels so fluid right now. Why it's like you think you're making progress, and then all of a sudden everything kind of falls apart there, or some new authoritarian comes in and knocks over the dominoes. The little pop out point of Saturn and Neptune, Neptune totally dissolves boundaries, Saturn enforces them, and they're in Aries opposite Mars. So they're making that little tip of the kite. So part of the reason why this year feels so intense too, and why it's so fluid, is because those two are together. Honestly, I can't wait till they go back into Pisces for a little while. And I'm sorry, Pisces, they're
coming up.
getting Saturn back on September 1st till February 13th. Then it goes back into Aries for 2 years. And then Neptune goes back into Pisces October 22nd to January 26th. So it's like, will that bring back a little touch of compassion after we've had such thrusting, intense change? Anyways.
Yeah.
That
Well, speaking of
kite.
Libra and Mars being the fighter, one Libra who I'm very glad has found his fight is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. As you may know, he has taken to using an amazing tactic of trolling Donald Trump, imitating his all caps tweets and his grandiosity and his AI generated savior pictures. So you probably have seen it, but I highly recommend
I feel like
it.
we
It's
need to
just,
read one because they're just so juicy and good. Wait,
yeah.
in
Yeah, they're
case,
so good.
we've been hearing from you guys, like, thank you for talking about the news. So we don't have to watch it. So I feel like this one is worthy of a good, maybe I'll read it on Fox News. It says, they even said Newsom's office continues to mock Trump using his social media writing style, quote, tiny hands.
He called him
uh
Taco Trump. I mean, he's just,
Here's one
yeah.
in quotes. Many people are saying that Donald J. Trump would consider, quote, giving away, quote, the free state of California to his, quote, best friend, quote, Vladimir Putin. This is in all caps. All because I, Gavin C. Newsom, stole the cameras this week with, quote unquote, the maps.
Yeah. I love
America
it.
would collapse without California, and not even, quote, dummy Donald, tiny hands could make such a, quote, disastrous deal. But if he ever tries to, quote, swap California to Russia, mark my words, there will be big, beautiful consequences for him. And believe me, he won't like them. Thank you for your attention to this very important matter. GCN.
I mean, it's so good. You know, Kamala Harris, she and her husband Doug Emhoff are both Libras, and they did a pretty good job. I mean, I've got to give it to some Libras, kind of some of the best sly humor out there when they, when they really work
I'll tell you
that angle. They might be
one
the nice
Libra who looked like they were having sly humor was Vladimir Putin walking behind Trump with that smirk on his face.
God,
but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, they may not be. They're not all sugar without spice. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, another Libra who is getting, I'd say, his Saturn karma. Saturn and Neptune are both associated with karma too. Is Benjamin Netanyahu. There are a million Israelis out on the streets. I've seen they're showing aerial view photos. Like the streets are just completely covered with people protesting Netanyahu, wanting him to end the war on Gaza and just, get the hostages and just stop destroying Palestinian lives and properties. So, I mean, I'm glad that they're showing that because there are some members of the Israeli government, just like of the American government, that are just making it horrible for everybody. And there are, just as there are MAGA supporters, there are Israeli hardline far-right people too, who are full of hate and divisiveness. And yet, just as so many Americans are against it, and Gavin Newsom is helping to give a voice. Like so many Jews and Israelis are against what's happening in Israel and Palestine and with Gaza. And it's just, I think this Lionsgate and Mars and Libra has brought more people speaking out against that and for humanity.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, well, let's talk about that other kite too and the magic rectangle. So, because there's something interesting going on there. The other kite is much more watery. And that one, the grand trine, it's a grand water trine. The first one I talked about was a grand air trine. So that's much more about people interacting with each other, negotiations, diplomacy, ideas.
Mental. Everybody was arguing with words and thoughts and their intellect, I noticed.
Yeah.
It was that water.
Yeah, that water. The water one is Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, which is kind of that rage, that empowered rage. With Venus and Jupiter, the benefics in Cancer, which is big, nurturing love, and then the North Node in Pisces, which is compassion. And the tip of that, opposing the North Node in Pisces, is the South Node in Virgo, which is our ethics, our virtues. And so it's like, I think that there's a million people protesting in Israel makes a lot of sense with that. It's, I've also, just been hearing a lot of, I've been watching, I mentioned this in the Instagram. It's like, there's a lot of women that I've been seeing in my feed going, okay, you're talking about population decline and, the male problem and whatever the male, what's going on, the crisis with men that's happening. But like, stop taking away our reproductive rights, our bodily autonomy. We don't want to be around anything that, represses us and might make us pregnant to boot.
Charlie Kirk too. Like, it's like women need to be having babies and be in the home. I'm like, enough of this trad wife movement. It's just out of control. And we did have a Taurus quarter moon, so over the weekend and Friday.
I just read that they're in China, they're developing robotics that can actually carry a baby. How about that for Pluto and Aquarius? Like, here, carry the baby. I'm just thinking about the whole gestation process of the bonding with the mother, epigenetics, all of that. Like, what on earth is going to happen? Like, what would a child born by a robot feel. I mean, maybe they've figured out how to put those frequencies and signals, and I'm sure, I just glimpse that. I mean, this is where we're going according to
I have a friend who's an
the
Aquarius, and she just
futurists.
had a baby with a surrogate at age 48, but she said she took some hormones to stimulate lactation. So she's actually able to nurse her daughter,
Wow.
who was born by a surrogate. So it's such a time with Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini where technology and innovation and humanness are butting up against each other. There's all this AI, there's a lot of new AI website, the generative internet. That's also been the talk. And I played around with it because, as you guys may know, we went to art school, and I have training in design and web design, and I like to tinker with our sites and platforms. And I was like, this is
11th
still
house sun
11th
too.
house sun here. This is I played around with it, and it does some really cool stuff with prompts. It's like basically you will go to Chat GPT. It'll help you write prompts that will direct the page builder, for example, or the app builder to do something. But there's still, just like with the AI stuff, it starts to forget. Or I put an astrology chart into Chat
Oh
GPT
my God,
with
that's so terrible.
transits, and asked us just to test it, and asked it to interpret. It got everything wrong. It said every planet was in another house, and it wasn't. So I had a friend who was like, oh yeah, I've been learning a lot from Chat GPT. It told me when I was going to meet my future wife. I was like, don't. But little
No,
pro
man,
tip
no.
to anyone out there. I don't think anyone in our audience is this insensitive, but you never know. Like, I think people just don't know. It's like, do not tell a human professional that you used your Chat GPT to do what they do. Like, I mean, common sense
I've probably
101.
made that mistake myself, but
Yeah, I was just like, oh, did your Chat GPT tell you when you were going to meet your wife? Well, thanks for telling me, because I've zero training in astrology whatsoever. My ego wasn't offended. I just was kind of like, God, that's so clueless.
I mean, I'm
Like,
curious. I personally wouldn't be bothered by that, but I would be more like, show me what it said and tell me why it said that.
I did,
And
except
it's
I didn't
like,
have time. I was like, ugh, I don't even care. Like, but I was just like, yeah, it's like I would say, hey, I asked ChatGPT, but I don't know if it's right or not. Would you verify it? Could I pay
I mean,
you to verify it?
yeah, like asking an astrologer when you're going to meet your person is a common thing and one I've done before, but I've also have realized that it's like that sometimes is like astrological bypass. It's like, well, you could speed that up if you actually did some inner work and
Well,
use your
yeah,
chart to like figure
yeah.
out, look at your Venus, look at your Mars, look at your South Node, look at your Lilith, your Chiron, like
Well, for
maybe start
anyone who's listening who
unpacking,
is thinking about that, and by the way, we are doing astrology readings. So,
Yes.
since we know that our podcast listeners have been booking them, and we've loved meeting you guys, we still have some openings, I think, in September and into October now.
Couple
So,
of them, yeah.
couple left in September. But if you are, and what is the link is astrostyle.com/readings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Simple.
So, and we'll put that in the show notes. But how it really works is like there's not this one date that if you miss it, you will never meet your person. It's like there are windows of opportunity, and you want to know when they are. There are, like the astrologers who tell people, oh, on, August 19th, there's this perfect alignment, and you absolutely have to make sure you go out because that's the one day of the year that you're going to find love. And then the person gets so anxious and puts so much attachment and expectation onto that day that they actually repel the love that they might attract because they're so obsessively focused on it. They might not even notice, because when you meet someone, it's usually like your person. It's usually through some amazing, divine, serendipitous events where you're relaxed, not where you're like checking your watch. You know, the saying, a watched pot never boils. So I don't like that kind of astrological reading for people. It's more like these are opportune moments. And if you can meet the moment with raised vibration, with self love, who are you going to be on that day that Venus and Jupiter align with Sirius, like they did on August 12th? Like, who are you going to be so that if you do meet a person who's compatible with you, that you would be able to receive the energy
or
and
make it
dance with
last
it.
for more than a few nights or a few weeks or whatever. Because yeah, you might meet the person, but that's the beauty of the birth chart is that, I mean, I think we all come here to work on ourselves, to work on our souls. We are on, you know, this evolving journey over lifetimes. And so
Mhm.
just getting the things you want isn't going to bring you happiness if you don't actually tap into the real amazing, you know, keys within your chart. And look, you know, with you weren't like this as much as I was, but with the 4 planets in Scorpio, I was always like, when am I going to meet my man, my husband, you know, just like tried to turn every hoe into a husband, as they say. But it was just like, that was just such a misuse of the Scorpio parts. Like actually Chiron and Aries was driving that a lot, just like learning, like, and being you know, the wounded healer in Aries, I was like, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm not enough on my own. And even being a twin, South Node in the 7th house. So like just kind of, you know, getting to that point of being, you know, if, spoiler alert, in the last episode of And Just Like That, it's like it's like the woman, she wrote the epilogue to her book, her painful to think about, you know, novel. The woman decided she wasn't, you know, alone. She was just with herself or something like that. I probably butchered it, but
Mhm.
I actually the last episode, you know, was not that bad. It was like it had a little bit of lingering Sex in the City. There was, you know, a little
It's an
bit of light
important
humor.
realization. I mean, I spent New Year's Eve solo a couple years ago, and I heard myself saying, like, I guess I'm spending New Year's Eve by myself. And I said, no, I'm going to spend it with myself. And in that distinction was a huge world of difference and an experience of like moving away from self abandonment. Actually, our friend who's a
Very Saturn
Virgo.
and Neptune and Aries, by the way.
Yeah, opposite Mars and Libra. Well, our friend Gala Darling, who's a Virgo, made a great Instagram video that I saw today about like why Samantha and Carrie probably wouldn't be friends anymore, because she showed how Samantha broke up with Richard and said, you know, I love you, Richard, but I love me more. And how she was like, and Carrie was just the kind of friend that is always there until she gets a man and is just waiting
Mhm.
to get the man. And then she's going to make that man the center of her world and kind of make her friends second. It's just, you know, there's just still so much of that going on. It's like, you know, I'm amazed how many Gen Z, you know, young women, I guess it's just the conditioning doesn't stop in the patriarchy here.
Yeah. The desire to be a destination bride or a insert
Oh.
bride, but hey, we had that
Listen, we're
era
not trying to take that
ourselves.
away from anybody, you
No.
know, but I am very glad to say that you know, women in their 40s are really learning about perimenopause and hormones, and women even in their 40s and 50s have so many options to not just have to suffer in silence with hormonal changes and menopause. Like, we're really able to live vibrantly, and I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Our Libra friend Gina Pell came up with the term perennial for like what she calls the ageless demographic, and people who are constantly blooming and growing. And that's the one I choose to adopt because I gain value from friends, and they're from I was around two teenagers, my daughter and her friend, and people in their 30s and 40s this weekend, and it was so great. I think there was some statistic that people who have multi-generational friendships actually live longer and keep their cognitive health up. I think it's really great.
And really important. I mean, that's the Saturn and Neptune and Aries too. Like what is it to be self-sovereign, self-possessed, but in a way that's, both self-defined, but also not so boundaried Neptune that no one can get in. Now, Saturn and Neptune are also involved in that magic rectangle. And by the way, these shapes in the sky are just winding down this week. So, that fast moving frequent, it does feel like so much has been happening, but that there is going to be some dissolving of some of those. The one that's going to stick around for a while is this minor grand trine with
a couple of years.
It's Saturn and Neptune and Aries with Pluto
Uranus
and
Pluto that are trine.
So those big outer planets up, but the magic rectangle is two trines and two sextiles making like a box, a rectangular box, and then you could draw an X. There's two oppositions between them. So in that we have Mercury and Leo sextile and this like friendly flow with Mars and Libra. So of course, egos busted up the whole negotiations, if you could call them that, in Alaska. And then Saturn and Neptune sextile Pluto. And then it's just, and then Pluto opposite Mercury and Saturn and Neptune opposite Mars. And it's just this like,
it's all these shifting alliances and it's really like
the magic of it is like guessing who you can actually trust and who you can't. That's what's going to pop out like a jack in the box at the end. Like,
I mean, it's interesting because some European leaders are wanting to come with Zelensky to meet with Trump, so he's not bullied alone. So they're, we are seeing people. I mean, we're seeing people coming together. We're seeing people realize they have to be allies, even if they're being told that they're supposed to hate each other and be divided. And that's making me very happy to see.
But we're in such unscripted territory too. It's like, I mean, I think Jupiter in Cancer is also a lot of like homeland, like protection, like who do we protect? And that's not even touching the crap that's happening here. The insane corporate prisons, which is very Pluto and Aquarius. They're the billions of dollars that this huge, horrible bill is giving to Christy Nome, who is the devil incarnate.
I mean, it's not getting better. This stuff is going on and is becoming more normalized, or we may be becoming a little bit desensitized by the flooding of the zone here and there. It's just, that's why I'm happy to see Gavin Newsom trying a new tactic, but hopefully it inspires more. I think it's
so crazy how Pluto just comes in like a wrecking ball. It's like, okay, all Aquarius, which rules democracy, let's just make it seem like we're going to take this away. And like, I still don't think that people are uncomfortable enough to realize that that's happening. I mean,
some people are, but it's like we also feel like, what do we even do about this? I mean, it's hard to say. We're in the dawning of this Pluto era. It's going on till 2044. So just as like in 2008, when Pluto went into Capricorn until 2024, we couldn't have imagined where we would end up. Would we have imagined like Uber and everything being, the gig economy being what it is? Probably not. So, or in 1995, when Pluto was in Sagittarius until 2008 and brought us the internet and all would we even have imagined like Skype or being able to speak
That was like
on
the
video?
Jetsons.
It was like, it was like for us Gen Xers, it was like
Zoom,
watching the Jetsons and like, oh my God, George Jetson's boss is calling him on a big screen. So
I was just thinking when you were talking about the generative AI, like building the website, how it's like basically like 10 print hello, 20 like anyone,
used to
all the
do.
Gen Xers who had the very first computers, and we had to like
program
type in these.
Basic.
It
was a language called Basic, all caps. That's what we would type in 10 print hello, and like an asterisk.
We would make it like we would like space X space XX, and like make these ridiculous shapes on a dot matrix printer. Like the printer would like go through and
Print
go like,
shop. That was the game. That was the really cool. We'd make these banners. Yeah.
Oh my God,
those were the good old days. Well, as we head into Virgo season, that back to school mindset is going to come for you starting this Friday. Still, enjoy summer, but Leo's fire, Virgo's earth. So maybe a little more grounding. But on Saturday, we have the Virgo new moon.
Yeah, this one's a warm up. We have 2 back-to-back Virgo new moons. This one on August 23rd, whatever you plant now is going to get a supersized boost on September 21st, because that's when we have a solar eclipse new moon in Virgo.
Solar eclipse,
a partial solar eclipse. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, 2 Virgo new moons in a row, a month apart. Typically, there's only one new moon per sign every year, but every couple years, 2.8 years, I believe, we get 2 in a row. This one's an eclipse, and it's the eclipse is in September, but the August Virgo new moon this Saturday is going to be square. That's a 90-degree angle of tension to Uranus and Gemini. So those are the 2 Mercury-ruled signs, Virgo and Gemini. So we can expect more kind of surprising news, communications, like as you plant the seeds of intention at the Virgo new moon. Be prepared to pivot. Be prepared for some maybe curveball information or news or a partner you didn't expect. It could be exciting too.
Could dig a little deeper too. You might want to just maybe you could even find someone who you want to work with or pair up with on a wellness kick, or a teacher. Virgo can also rule those instructors and teachers and information. I mean, these are both Mercury ruled signs, Virgo.
Well, on that note,
Gemini.
we're going to be teaching this fall. So it's a good time to talk about that. Our Astropreneurs 10-week mastermind is starting in less than a month on September 13th. And it is such a juicy curriculum. I am having the best time getting it ready. So if you are someone we like to call a mystic on a mission, whether you have a corporate job or work for yourself or a creator or a healer or something, maybe you have a desire to do something meaningful in the world, but you're not sure how you can actually make a living off of it. You're not sure how to scale it if you've already started, or how to really put yourself out there in a way that gets noticed. So we've been teaching this for over a decade in various formats and speaking all over the country, really all over the world about it. But we love to show what we call astropreneurs, enterprising, aspiring entrepreneurs and creators, how to use a little bit of astrology, our I am system, and all the things that we have learned from building a global platform over the last 20 plus years on our own. It was an accidental career, but we have learned so much from publishing 23 books, having a TV show on Amazon Prime Video, having millions of people on our website and writing for Elle, and just all the adventures that we've had working with brands and just finding creative ways to start, grow, and sustain our mission of helping people use astrology to live lives they love, design their lives, and live well, do what they want, become more of who they are, not less. So that's what we're going to be teaching. And we're going to have a few free webinars for you to get a taste of it over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned, follow along. So it's going to be 10 weeks on Saturdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern, just like our Become Your Own Astrologer program. It's kind of a good time for people when you're not in the middle of work. It's from September 13th to November 15th. And it's $1,200 if you pay in full, or 3 payments of $500 to learn something priceless, really, that you can go and make a return on your investment. Not to sound like a MasterCard commercial there, but yeah, it's
like we were saying earlier with your chart, because we ground, in the foundation of your chart for this, but we pair it with, the business skills that we've learned along our illustrious 3-decade-long careers in media. So it's
it's like everything from like who's the kindred spirit customer that needs what you want? How do you actually price your services? Like, one of the things that people that we call astropreneurs often grapple with is like, how do I even explain this thing? Like, you may have this skill or this ability that really helps people a lot, or maybe you're blending your expertise from the 3D world with money or fitness or project management or design, but you want to bring it into some way that really helps people, or you want to work with people who are conscious customers, that kind of thing, and you don't know what to charge, you don't know how to really differentiate yourself from all the others out there. Maybe you're doing something that a lot of other people are doing, but in your own special way. So we use our IM system and all these lessons that we have created. We're going to be releasing the syllabus for it soon, just to help you find what works best for you, instead of trying to imitate someone else's way of doing it or following a cookie cutter formula. There isn't a cookie cutter formula. There are things that you can do that we've done, but we're going to show you how to do them in a way that's tailored to you.
So how can they find out information about the program?
astrostyle.com/astropreneurs, and we will drop the link as well. So yeah,
it's like entrepreneurs, but astro instead of entra. And like we were saying earlier about love, it's the same thing with money and success. It's like that, when will I find success? We're not waiting for the when. We're not waiting for the stars to align. We're going to show you how to use your chart to speed up the timeline. So any moment that those can just be opportunity periods where things can expand, but you can already use the key elements of your chart to start attracting and drawing and building a tangible foundation and rooted in reality. So
so with this Virgo new moon,
I'm already sounding so Virgo-y, aren't I?
I know. It is a great time to start to make a plan for what you want to do for the rest of the year, into the early first couple months of the year when the Virgo full moon arrives during Pisces season. And just like how do you sharpen those pencils, sharpen your plans and intentions? What do you want to plant for the rest of this year into next? And with the square to Uranus again, like, who are the people that you need around? Uranus and Gemini, whose skills might complement yours? You don't have to figure it all out alone. Like, be open to a really interesting contributor, and other opinions too. But I will also say with that square, also do be careful whose feedback you ask for,
Right.
because
That
the square can
perfectionistic
bring, yeah, you could
critic
bring, yeah,
energy, like you could
critic.
get bad advice, or just somebody who just sticks a number 2 pencil in your balloon sharpened.
Exactly. So remember, it's a reminder that you have to trust yourself. Nobody knows. I mean, I can't even tell you how many mansplaining, woman-splaining, whatever, how many people just love to tell others, "Oh, you can't do that. That'll never work." I remember with our magazine, Hues, we had our own multicultural women's magazine that we made national, in the early 90s, and I won a scholarship to NYU's Summer Publishing Institute, which is funny, since I live right near where I
I
stayed and
know, like,
studied
literally.
now. But this was in 1994. I was right out of college, and I was uh, brought to New York for 3 weeks to learn from mentors in the publishing industry. And I remember, and I had copies of our magazine because we were self-publishing it as a college project. And I remember showing it to, yes, it was a man. Um, and he said, he was, I think, in marketing or sales. And he said to me, "Well, don't you think if this was a good idea, someone would have done it already?" And I'll never forget, like, how that just
F you,
like the
man.
air went out of my chest, because I was 20, 21, and I was so like hopeful, and expected at least for him to be like, "Wow, great job." Like, I don't know what I was expecting, but at least some encouragement. And
He
I had
basically was like,
never,
"That's a bad idea."
yeah, I had never thought
Like,
of
what
it
a
that
dick.
way, and really. But I that had never occurred to me. That just was not how we operated, and it isn't now. So if you've ever had that thought about your idea, your dream, I can assure you, if you do decide to check out Astropreneurs and join us for it, you will never ever hear that from us.
Very
We
true.
will help you refine it and help you find the audience and present it, but we're never going to tell you that your gifts are not needed or wanted on this planet. Quite the opposite.
And it's something to note for Virgo season, which can bring out that inner critic, the self, the perfectionistic tendencies too. And, when the eclipse comes around, that could get even more shadowy. So if you find like you're spinning your wheels and like not sure if you're doing it right, like, well, sometimes it is good to run the numbers and the data.
I got great advice too.
Yeah, you
We
did.
were like always making all these clever titles. And the mentor from the program, Jack Nessel was his name. He was a publishing veteran who was also a man, who was an incredible supporter and champion. And he gave me really great advice. He said, think of the titles of your articles as like the door to a great restaurant. Like, if there isn't a door, it's not marked well, people might not come in and see what amazing food there is. Now, that was constructive advice. That's the kind of advice I love to give people. So I was like, oh, I have a great idea and a great message, but I just need to present it differently. That was helpful. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of advice you should be giving and looking
Looking
for
for during
during Virgo.
Virgo's.
Yeah, during Virgo
Yeah.
season
Like
for sure.
sometimes, like I don't always like to measure everything, or, it's like sometimes there are areas of my life like, I refuse to step on a scale because it can just crush me when I think about, but like, like
I won't be doing that
I
during
will I
Virgo
won't be
season or
doing that
any
either.
season.
I know I have friends who weigh themselves every day. I'm like, I just can't. I'm just not
Good
wired
God,
like
why?
that. It's like, no, I've done that before and it's
If it
just created
empowers
a work.
you, do
It
you?
never
But
empowered me to do it, but for others it does. But sometimes like tracking money, tracking things where you feel a little out of control can bring some interesting data, as long as you're not doing it in a
I mean, you don't have to
self-punishing
weight
way.
yourself to track your health like,
Exactly. You
there's
don't.
so much more to health than our weight. Like, I understand some people's
Exactly.
doctors tell them that and they have to do that, but like, just to keep a journal of your food and what were you feeling when you ate that. It's like it's about just like
intuitive
or
eating.
are you having maybe allergic reactions or histamines or that kind of, I mean, there's so many more creative and interesting and affirming ways to do Virgo season, Virgo things. And then there are self-abandoning, punitive, like which I think are mentally unhealthy. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. We know it's Virgo season and we don't have to
don't turn on yourself this Virgo season.
That's our beloved friend, astrologer Stephen Forrest, who's a Capricorn, one of the champions of evolutionary astrology. I mean, I really love what he says about it because it's like we have evolved beyond those basic bitch definitions of what Virgo is or what the signs are.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Remember, a lot of the intensity of this week is going to slowly start to fade next Monday. The retro shade is over. Venus goes into Leo. We'll talk about all of that next week. But, just when you need to, just don't even second guess yourself. If you feel like staying in, if your intuition tells you need to slow down, take some time to ground, trust
that
yourself.
Balsamic moon phase at the end of the week. Yeah, it's kind of an energy winding down for the new moon week. So yeah, go easy, take your time, slow down, do it right. And we will see you next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to AstroTwins Radio. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, we'd be over the moon if you left us a 5-star review. It helps fellow astrology lovers find us. And make sure to hit subscribe and follow us on iTunes and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Want the full visual experience? You can also watch the video version on our YouTube at AstroTwins-TV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at AstroTwins and head over to astrostyle.com to read your free daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope that we write for you with love. Until next time, move with intention and let the universe meet you there.